The music was loud, the laughter even louder, but the most powerful man in the valley sat alone. In the far corner of the grand wooden hall, beneath strings of golden lights and red desert roses, Thunderhawk Blackstone watched the wedding like a stranger watching a life he was never meant to live. His wheelchair rested still on the polished oak floor, its steel frame gleaming under the lantern glow. Around him, ranchers in press suits and Apache elders in traditional beadwork celebrated a union meant to unite land, legacy, and wealth. It was an old American-style wedding, set deep in the heart of the desert, where cattle ranches stretched for miles and mountains stood like silent witnesses. Thunderhawk Blackstone was not just any man. He was the billionaire Apache who owned half the oil beneath the desert and most of the land above it. His empire of cattle, drilling rigs, and horse ranches made him a legend in the Southwest. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, he was simply a man sitting alone while others danced. A war injury had taken the strength from his legs years ago, leaving him in a wheelchair and the subject of whispers. Some said fate punished him for rising too high. Others claimed he was cursed by the spirits of old rivals. Thunderhawk never answered. His silence had become as famous as his wealth. Across the hall, the bride and groom laughed beneath crystal chandeliers, unaware of the storm brewing in the corner. The groom was the son of a powerful ranch dynasty. The bride came from one of the oldest Apache bloodlines. Their marriage was supposed to symbolize unity between modern power and ancient pride. It was supposed to heal wounds of the past, but old wounds do not close so easily in the desert. Thunderhawk's sharp eyes studied the crowd. He noticed the way some men avoided looking at him. He noticed the way others stared too long. He understood both reactions. Power makes people nervous. A powerful man in a wheelchair makes them uncomfortable. He adjusted the silver ring on his finger, a family heirloom carved with tribal markings that told stories of warriors and chiefs. Once he had been a warrior himself. Before the accident, he rode horses across these plains like the wind. Before the accident, people feared his strength more than his wealth. Now, they feared something else, feared what he still knew. A slow country melody began to play, mixing with traditional Apache drums. The sound echoed through the hall, blending two worlds together in a fragile harmony. The scent of roasted meat and sweet cornbread filled the air. Champagne glasses clinked. Boots tapped against wood. And still, Thunderhawk sat alone, till she appeared. Iron Willow Reyes had not planned to attend the wedding. Ranch widows rarely enjoyed celebrations. The desert had taken her husband in a brutal winter storm 2 years ago, leaving her with thousands of acres of struggling cattle land and a reputation as the toughest woman in 3 counties. She wore black tonight, not out of mourning, but out of habit. Her dark hair was braided over one shoulder, her posture straight as a rifle barrel. Men respected Iron Willow. Some feared her. Few truly knew her. She stood near the back of the hall at first, watching the same way Thunderhawk did. She understood isolation. She understood what it meant to build an empire with calloused hands.
Always.
Her ranch bordered Thunderhawk's oil fields.
Always.
Their lands touched, though their lives never had. Until now. The crowd shifted, laughter rising again as the best man began his speech. That was when Iron Willow noticed him properly, the billionaire Apache in a wheelchair, sitting like a carved statue while the world celebrated around him. She had heard the rumors about the accident, about the secrets buried beneath the desert, about the enemies who would smile at a wedding and strike at dawn. But she also heard something else in those rumors. Respect. Without asking permission from anyone, Iron Willow crossed the wooden floor. Her boots made steady, deliberate sounds, not rushed, not hesitant. People stepped aside for her without realizing it. When she reached the corner, Thunderhawk sensed her before he looked up. The air shifted as if the desert wind had entered the room, lifted his gaze. For a long moment, neither spoke. Her eyes were not soft. They were fierce, storm gray and sharp. His were dark and steady, carrying both fire and restraint. 2 leaders measuring each other without words. "You look like a man who knows something the rest of us don't," Iron Willow said quietly, her voice low enough that only he could hear. Thunderhawk studied her face. He did not answer immediately.
Ow.
Most people spoke too much around him, trying to impress or challenge him. She did neither. "I know that weddings are rarely about love," he replied at last. His voice was calm, deep, controlled. "They are about alliances. A flicker of interest crossed her expression. "Odd. Is that what this is?" she asked. "That depends on who survives it." The words hung heavy between them. Across the hall, the bride's father glanced toward Thunderhawk with a tension he tried to hide. The groom's uncle whispered urgently to a man near the doors. Something was off. The celebration felt too perfect, too staged. Iron Willow leaned closer, just slightly. Close enough that Thunderhawk could feel her warmth, close enough that her whisper would not travel. "I didn't come here for dancing," she murmured. "I came because my ranch hands saw unfamiliar trucks near the border of our lands this morning. Black trucks, no plates." Thunderhawk's jaw tightened almost invisibly. "I saw them too," he said. "They weren't looking for cattle." The music swelled again, applause erupting as the bride tossed her bouquet. Laughter masked the tension building in the corner. Iron Willow's heart beat faster, though her face remained steady. "If someone is planning to move against you," she said, "they'll use tonight." When everyone important is in one place, Thunderhawk gave the smallest nod. "That is why I am here, not to celebrate, to watch." For the first time that evening, something changed in his expression. Not weakness, not fear. Something like recognition. He was no longer alone in the corner. "Could have stayed away," he said. "Let the desert swallow whatever comes." Iron Willow's lips curved faintly. "The desert has already taken enough from me." The air between them shifted from suspicion to something deeper. A silent understanding. Two powerful souls shaped by loss, standing at the edge of something dangerous. Across the hall, the lights flickered. Just once. Most guests didn't notice. Thunderhawk did. So did Iron Willow. A ranch hand rushed toward the groom's father, whispering urgently. The man's face drained of color. Near the entrance, the unfamiliar men had positioned themselves closer to the doors. Thunderhawk's hands tightened on the armrests of his wheelchair. He was a billionaire, a landowner, a strategist. But in this moment, he was also a target. Iron Willow leaned even closer, her voice barely breath. "If they strike," she whispered, "they won't expect me to stand with you." His eyes locked onto hers, something fierce igniting there. "And will you?" he asked. The music stopped abruptly. The doors at the far end of the hall creaked open. Cold desert wind rushed inside, carrying dust and the scent of trouble. Iron Willow did not look away from Thunderhawk as the first shadow stepped across the threshold. "That depends," she whispered back, her voice steady as steel. "On what you're willing to risk for someone who refuses to sit alone, and in that suspended heartbeat." With danger entering the wedding and the past rising like a storm, Thunderhawk Blackstone realized the night was no longer about alliances arranged by others. It was about a choice neither of them could undo. The cold wind that swept into the wedding hall did not belong to celebration. It carried dust from the desert and a warning that only a few people in the room understood. Thunderhawk Blackstone did not flinch. It faced boardrooms full of ruthless investors and deserts full of enemies. But this felt different. This was personal. Iron Willow Reyes straightened slowly, her boots firm against the wooden floor. The guests near the entrance turned, confused by the sudden silence. The band members lowered their instruments. Laughter faded into uneasy whispers. 3 men stood in the doorway, tall, broad, dressed in dark suits, too stiff for ranch life. They did not look like wedding guests. They looked like men who were used to taking what they wanted. Across the room, Crimson Veil. The bride's father, and one of the most powerful ranch owners in the Southwest, forced a tight smile and moved toward them. His silver hair and sharp jaw gave him the presence of an aging lion protecting his territory. He extended a hand in greeting, but his eyes betrayed him. Thunderhawk watched carefully. Iron Willow leaned closer again, though she kept her face calm. "Do you know them?" she asked quietly. "I know who sent them," Thunderhawk replied. Years before the accident, before the wheelchair, and before the rumors, Thunderhawk had built his oil empire by outbidding and outsmarting men who underestimated him. One of those men had been Stone Granger, a rival tycoon who believed Apache land should never hold modern wealth. Their feud had begun in courtrooms and ended in silence after Thunderhawk's accident. Many believed the accident had ended the war. Thunderhawk knew better. Stone Granger had sons, proud, ambitious, and hungry. The kind of men who would smile at a wedding while measuring the exits. Iron Willow followed his gaze. "If this is about land," she said, "my ranch borders your northern field." That makes me part of the game whether I like it or not. You were part of it the moment your husband refused to sell," Thunderhawk said gently. Her jaw tightened, but not at him. Her husband, Iron Ridge Reyes, had been a stubborn man with a strong heart. He had rejected multiple offers to sell their cattle ranch when oil was discovered beneath neighboring soil. He believed land was legacy, not currency. Months later, during a sudden winter storm, he rode out to bring cattle back from the ridge and never returned. The storm had been blamed. Iron Willow had never fully believed that story. The men at the door stepped farther inside. Crimson Veil exchanged quiet words with them. The bride, Golden Dawn Veil, sensed the shift in mood and clutched her bouquet tighter. Her groom, Hawk River Callahan, followed his father-in-law's stare toward the entrance. Thunderhawk felt the entire room shifting like a chessboard. This wedding was meant to merge ranch power and Apache wealth, Iron Willow said softly. If someone wanted to weaken that alliance, tonight would be perfect. Yes, Thunderhawk said. No one suspects business moves under wedding lights. He remembered his own past clearly. Before the accident, he had been known as a fearless negotiator, rode horses across his land, met elders beneath open skies, and shook hands with senators in tailored suits. He was respected by his tribe and feared by competitors. Then came the crash. A brake line failure on a mountain road. A vehicle that rolled too perfectly. A rescue that arrived too late. He survived. His legs did not. The official report blamed mechanical failure. Thunderhawk never accepted that explanation. Neither did his head of security, a loyal former Marine named Ironcrest Boone. Boone now stood near the side wall of the hall, scanning faces and tracking movements with trained precision. Iron Willow noticed him. "Your security looks ready." "They were ready before the music started," Thunderhawk said. Her lips curved slightly. "You planned for this?" "I hope to be wrong." The three strangers separated slightly as they moved deeper into the hall. One lingered near the entrance, one drifted toward the bar, and the third remained close to Crimson Veil. It was subtle, almost polite, but it was positioning. The guests began whispering. Champagne glasses were set down untouched. Iron Willow felt something unexpected stir inside her. It was not fear. It was a pull toward the man beside her, toward Thunderhawk. He did not ask for pity. He did not hide behind his wealth. He faced tension with quiet command. Even seated, he carried the presence of a warrior. "You carry this alone too often," she said before she could stop herself. He glanced at her, surprised by the softness in her tone. "Leadership is a solitary place," he answered. "So is widowhood," she replied. Their eyes held longer this time. The romance between them did not arrive like a spark. It arrived like recognition. Two people carved by loss. Two empires standing on shifting ground. The billionaire Apache in a wheelchair, and the ranch widow who refused to bow to anyone. Across the hall, Golden Dawn's laughter returned briefly as a cousin tried to lighten the mood, but it sounded forced. Iron Willow folded her arms. "This is connected to your accident, then it is deeper than oil or cattle." Thunderhawk exhaled slowly. "My accident cost someone a fortune." After it, several contracts shifted. Land changed hands. Deals were delayed. And someone benefited, she said. Yes, silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken questions. The man near the bar pulled out his phone and sent a message. Almost immediately, Ironcrest Boone stiffened. He murmured something into his earpiece. Thunderhawk noticed. Iron Willow did too. "You trust your people," she said. "With my life." "And do you trust me?" she asked. The question was bold, almost reckless, yet it felt necessary. Thunderhawk studied her face. The lines of strength around her mouth, the fire in her eyes. The honesty that did not hide behind charm. "My land touches yours," he said. "Our futures are already tied." "That is not what I asked." A faint smile touched his lips, the first genuine one of the evening. "Yes," he said quietly. "I trust you." The hall doors creaked again as the wind pushed harder against them. Outside, engines could be heard faintly in the distance. It's not loud enough for everyone to notice, but enough. Crimson Veil's voice rose suddenly, attempting to regain control of the room. He announced another toast, calling for unity, strength, and shared prosperity between ranch families and Apache enterprise. The words sounded powerful. They also sounded desperate. Iron Willow felt Thunderhawk's hand brush lightly against hers on the armrest. It was accidental at first, and neither of them moved away. Warmth spread through her chest. unexpected and steady. "You should not be the only one watching," she said softly. "If something happens, my ranch hands are loyal. They owe me." Thunderhawk's gaze softened. "You would stand publicly with me? I already am." The tension in the room continued to build, subtle but undeniable. The guests were smiling again, yet their eyes kept drifting toward the door. The band resumed playing, though the melody lacked its earlier joy. The man who had stayed near the entrance stepped aside briefly, speaking into a small device hidden near his collar. Ironcrest Boone shifted position. Willow leaned closer one more time. "This is not just about tonight," she whispered. "This is about power in the Southwest. Oil fields, ranch borders, tribal sovereignty, billionaire influence. Someone wants to redraw the map." Thunderhawk's voice dropped lower. "And they believe I am weaker now." Her hand tightened slightly around his. "They are wrong." Another gust of wind slammed the doors open wider, making several guests gasp. Outside, headlights flashed across the desert road. Not one vehicle. Several. The music faltered again. Crimson Veil's confident expression finally cracked. Thunderhawk felt the weight of the moment settle like dust on his shoulders. He was ready for confrontation. He had prepared for betrayal. But he had not expected to feel something else rising stronger than fear. Hope. Iron Willow did not release his hand. And as the engines outside grew louder, and shadows stretched across the wooden floor, Thunderhawk Blackstone understood one thing clearly. Whatever storm was coming for his empire, for the ranch lands, for the fragile alliance under wedding lights, he would not face it alone. The doors began to close slowly under the force of the wind. But before they shut completely, a familiar silhouette stepped into view beneath the headlights. A man Thunderhawk had not seen since the day of the crash. In the past, long buried beneath desert sand and corporate silence, was walking straight into the wedding. The silhouette paused in the doorway as the headlights behind him cut sharp lines across the wooden floor. Conversations died completely now. Even the band stepped back from their instruments. Thunderhawk Blackstone felt the blood in his veins turn to ice. Stone Granger did not walk with hesitation. Age had bent his shoulders slightly, but not his pride. His silver hair was slicked back, his tailored coat untouched by desert dust, as if the storm itself respected him. He removed his gloves slowly, deliberately, like a man stepping into a boardroom instead of a wedding hall. Iron Willow Reyes sensed the shift in Thunderhawk before she looked at the man in the doorway. "You know him," she said quietly. "Yes," Thunderhawk answered. "Well, years ago, when oil was discovered beneath Apache land, it had been Thunderhawk who secured drilling rights without surrendering tribal sovereignty. That victory made him a billionaire and a symbol of modern indigenous power. It also made him an enemy to men like Stone Granger, who believed old money should control new resources. Their rivalry had shaped the Southwest. Ranch borders became legal battlefields. Oil contracts became weapons. Investors chose sides. Newspapers whispered about corporate war disguised as negotiation. Then Thunderhawk's accident happened, and Stone Granger withdrew from public conflict, at least publicly. Now he stood at the wedding of Golden Dawn Vale and Hawk River Callahan, a ceremony meant to unify ranch legacy and Apache enterprise. Crimson Veil approached Stone Granger carefully, his smile thin as wire. "We were not expecting you," Crimson said, voice controlled. Stone Granger's eyes swept the room, lingering on Thunderhawk, before returning to Crimson. "Weddings are about unity," he replied smoothly. "I thought I would witness history." His gaze found Thunderhawk again, direct and unblinking. Iron Willow felt the temperature in the room drop without the wind's help. Round them, guests tried to pretend this was simply an unexpected arrival, but the tension was too thick. Ironcrest Boone moved subtly closer to Thunderhawk's side. Golden Dawn clutched Hawk River's arm. "Why does it feel like a business meeting?" she whispered to him. Hawk River swallowed. "'Cause it is." Iron Willow shifted her stance, her shoulder brushing Thunderhawk's. "He wants something," she murmured. "He always does," Thunderhawk said. Stone Granger stepped forward into the hall, fully now. The three men who had entered earlier straightened slightly, as if awaiting silent orders. The engines outside quieted but did not leave. Stone's voice carried easily across the room. "I came to congratulate the families. A merger of ranch power and Apache wealth. Remarkable. The word merger hung in the air like a threat disguised as praise. Thunderhawk finally moved his wheelchair forward, breaking the stillness of his corner. The sound of the wheels against wood echoed louder than expected. Iron Willow walked beside him without hesitation. Every eye in the hall tracked them as they approached the center of the room. The billionaire Apache in a wheelchair and the ranch widow in black, moving together under golden lights. Stone Granger's expression shifted almost imperceptibly when he saw Iron Willow at Thunderhawk's side. "Thunderhawk," Stone said, voice smooth. "It has been a long time." Thunderhawk stopped a few feet away. Long enough. A few guests inhaled sharply at the directness. Stone smiled faintly. "Still sharp. And you are still calculating," Thunderhawk replied. Iron Willow studied Stone carefully. She saw arrogance in his posture, but also something else. Urgency. Stone turned his gaze to her. "Iron Willow Reyes. I have heard of you, widow. Ranch owner. Fused. Generous buyout offers." "I value my land more than generosity," she answered calmly. Stone's eyes narrowed slightly. "Admirable. Though stubborn land can become expensive." Thunderhawk's hand tightened on the armrest of his chair. "Speak plainly." Stone spread his hands lightly. "Very well. The Southwest is changing. Oil production, cattle markets, tribal partnerships. Power must consolidate to survive." Crimson Veil stepped in cautiously. "This wedding already symbolizes consolidation." Stone looked at him briefly. "Symbolism is not ownership." The room went silent again. Iron Willow felt Thunderhawk's tension beside her. She also felt something protective rising in her chest. "What exactly are you proposing?" Thunderhawk asked. Stone's gaze sharpened. A realignment. Your northern oil field, the one bordering Reyes Ranch, combined with my refining infrastructure, shared profits, shared security." Iron Willow stiffened. There it was. Stone did not look at her this time. He looked only at Thunderhawk. Accidents happen in this region. Storms, mechanical failures, fortunate misunderstandings. The words were soft, too soft. Ironcrest Boone stepped half a pace forward, jaw tight. Thunderhawk's voice dropped low. "Are you threatening us at a wedding?" Stone's lips curved slightly. "I am reminding you that power requires alignment." Golden Dawn's mother, Ivory Veil, clutched her husband's arm. Guests began quietly drifting toward the walls, sensing something far deeper than business. Iron Willow bent slightly toward Thunderhawk. "He wants your field because it connects to mine. If he controls both, he controls the entire corridor." Thunderhawk nodded faintly. Transportation routes, export leverage, tribal royalties. This was no simple land grab. It was about dominance over the region's oil supply chain, ranch access roads, and political influence. Whoever controlled that corridor would dictate terms to investors and state officials alike. Stone's sons, Iron Ridge Granger and Flint Granger, entered the hall now from behind him. Younger, hungrier. Their presence tightened the knot in Thunderhawk's chest. Iron Willow noticed Thunderhawk's gaze darken at the sight of them. "They were at the hospital after your accident," she whispered. It was not a question. "Yes," he said. A flicker of realization passed between them. Stone spoke again, louder now. "The future belongs to those willing to adapt. You sit in that chair because you underestimated how quickly power shifts." The cruelty in the statement rippled through the hall. Iron Willow stepped closer to Thunderhawk, her voice steady but edged with steel. "He sits in that chair because he survived." Stone's eyes met hers slowly. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Thunderhawk felt warmth flood through him, not from anger but from her loyalty.
Ow.
No one had ever defended him so openly in a room like this. Stone tilted his head slightly. "Perhaps survival is not the same as victory." Thunderhawk met his stare without blinking. "Victory is not always visible." Outside, one of the engines restarted briefly, then shut off again. The sound was deliberate, like a reminder. Hawk River Callahan finally stepped forward, surprising even himself. "This is my wedding," he said. "If you have business, take it elsewhere." Stone regarded the young groom with mild interest. "You inherit more than a bride tonight, son." Crimson Veil's face flushed with restrained anger. This conversation ends now, but it did not end, because Iron Willow felt it in her bones. This was not about one oil field or one ranch. This was about rewriting control of the Southwest. Billionaire power. Ranch dynasty pride. Apache sovereignty. Corporate ambition. And at the center of it all stood Thunderhawk Blackstone in his wheelchair, no longer isolated in the corner, but positioned in the heart of the storm. Iron Willow's hand found his again, fingers lacing deliberately this time. "You are not alone," she said softly. Though everyone could see it, Stone noticed. His eyes narrowed not in anger, but in recalculation. Romance had entered the equation. An alliance not arranged by families, but chosen by two strong wills. Stone adjusted his coat. "We will continue this discussion soon, privately." Thunderhawk's jaw tightened. "We will see." Stone turned slowly, signaling to his sons and the men near the doors. They did not leave entirely. They repositioned near the entrance once more, as if settling in to watch. The music did not resume. The guests did not return to carefree celebration. Thunderhawk understood something with chilling clarity. Stone Granger had not come to negotiate. He had come to measure. Measure loyalty. Measure fear. Measure the strength of a billionaire Apache in a wheelchair, in the unexpected power of a ranch widow standing at his side. Iron Willow squeezed his hand once, steady and sure. Around them, the wedding hall glowed under soft lights, but outside the desert, waited, vast and unforgiving. And somewhere between oil fields, ranch borders, and buried secrets, the next move was already being planned. The wedding never truly recovered after Stone Granger's arrival. The band attempted another song, something soft and hopeful, but the melody floated awkwardly over stiff shoulders and guarded expressions. Guests smiled for appearance, yet their eyes remained alert. The golden lights above seemed dimmer now, as if even celebration understood that power had entered the room. Thunderhawk Blackstone remained at the center of the hall, Iron Willow Reyes beside him, their hands still joined. He could feel the shift in alliances happening silently around him. Ranch owners who once hesitated now moved closer. Apache elders whispered among themselves. Investors who had arrived for a joyful merger were now witnessing a battle for control over oil fields, cattle routes, and sovereignty. Stone Granger had not left. He stood near the entrance with his sons, Iron Ridge Granger and Flint Granger, watching like hawks over open land. The message was clear. This was not over. Iron Crest Boone leaned close to Thunderhawk. Vehicles are still parked outside. No visible weapons. But they are positioned carefully. Thunderhawk nodded once. "Let them watch." Iron Willow studied him. "You expected pressure? But this feels bigger." "It is," he said quietly. "He is not just after the northern field. He wants the pipeline corridor that runs beneath it. Control that, and he controls distribution across 3 states. Her eyes widened slightly. "That affects tribal revenue agreements and ranch supply contracts," he added. This was no simple business dispute. This was about reshaping the economic map of the Southwest. Billionaire leverage, ranch dynasty power, corporate expansion disguised as partnership. Golden Dawn approached them carefully, her wedding dress brushing the wooden floor like soft snowfall. Hawk River stood protectively beside her. The bride's voice trembled slightly, but held strength. "Is our marriage part of his plan?" she asked Thunderhawk directly. Thunderhawk did not soften the truth. "Yes." Crimson Veil joined them, face drawn tight. "Stone wants influence over the Vale cattle routes. If he secures your oil corridor too, he becomes untouchable." Hawk River's jaw clenched. "We'll not use our wedding as leverage." Stone Granger's voice drifted across the room before anyone could respond. "Leverage is not always visible." Silence returned like a storm cloud. Iron Willow felt something deeper than tension rising inside her. Anger, yes, but also clarity. She had fought droughts, cattle disease, predatory lenders, and loneliness after losing Iron Ridge Reyes. She had built her ranch back with her own hands. She would not let another powerful man redraw her life without resistance. She stepped forward slightly, her voice calm but carrying. "If this is about infrastructure, then let us speak openly. Your refineries need Thunderhawk's crude supply. His supply needs stable transport routes. You could have negotiated respectfully." Stone's gaze settled on her again. "Respect is earned." Thunderhawk answered before she could. "Respect is mutual." Iron Ridge Granger shifted impatiently beside his father. Time is money, he said sharply. Delays cost everyone. Thunderhawk turned his wheelchair slightly to face him directly. Then perhaps you should have thought of that before cutting brake lines. The words landed heavy. Gasps moved through the hall. Stone's expression did not change, but his son stiffened. Iron Willow's heart pounded. She had suspected it. Now it was spoken aloud. That is a serious accusation, Stone said evenly. Is it? Thunderhawk replied. The wedding had transformed fully into confrontation. No one pretended otherwise now. Ironcrest Boone stepped forward with controlled precision. We reopened the investigation quietly last year. Evidence was missing. Reports altered. Crimson Veil looked stunned. You never told us, because I did not want tribal panic, Thunderhawk said. Or corporate war. Stone's eyes hardened slightly. You survived. That is what matters. To you, Iron Willow said, unable to contain herself. Outside, thunder rolled across the desert sky. Real thunder this time, a storm gathering fast. The atmosphere inside matched it. Guests began moving children and elders towards side rooms for safety, not from violence, but from instability. Power struggles had consequences beyond contracts. Golden Dawn's voice broke slightly. This was supposed to unite us. Thunderhawk looked at her gently. It still can. Iron Willow felt those words settle deep in her chest. Stone's attention shifted again to the joined hands between Thunderhawk and Iron Willow. Unexpected. Iron Willow did not release Thunderhawk. Strength recognizes strength. Flint Granger let out a low breath of annoyance. This is emotional distraction. No, Thunderhawk said calmly. This is strategy. The wind outside grew stronger. Windows rattled lightly. The storm was arriving, whether invited or not. Ironcrest Boone checked his phone and leaned close. State regulators are here, he murmured. They were invited earlier by Crimson Veil for the merger signing tomorrow. Thunderhawk's eyes sharpened. Where are they now? Outside. Delayed by weather? Iron Willow understood immediately. If regulators witnessed open conflict tonight, Stone's leverage could weaken. Public scrutiny was dangerous for quiet manipulation. Stone seemed to realize the same thing. His tone shifted slightly. This conversation has gone far enough for a wedding. Thunderhawk tilted his head, then leave. Stone did not move, because leaving now would look like retreat. The storm finally hit fully. Rain lashed against the roof. Thunder cracked overhead. Lights flickered again, this time longer. For one tense second, the hall went dark. In that darkness, Iron Willow felt Thunderhawk's grip tighten around her fingers. She did not pull away. Instead, she leaned closer so he could feel her presence clearly. When the lights returned, something had changed. Crimson Veil stepped forward with new resolve. The merger will proceed tomorrow under regulatory oversight. All negotiations will be documented. Stone's jaw tightened subtly. Hawk River moved beside Golden Dawn, placing himself between her and the Granger sons. Ironcrest Boone positioned security staff near exits discreetly. And Thunderhawk, despite the wheelchair beneath him, radiated command. You came here to measure me, Thunderhawk said quietly to Stone. Now you see where I stand. Stone's eyes flicked once more to Iron Willow. And you, he said to her. Do you understand the cost of standing there? She met his stare without hesitation. I have already paid cost. Thunder rolled again, louder. Outside headlights appeared through sheets of rain. Multiple vehicles pulling into the lot, not Granger's. Ironcrest Boone checked again. Regulators and media, he whispered. The timing felt almost cinematic, but no one smiled. Stone Granger had underestimated one variable, visibility. A billionaire Apache with tribal backing, a ranch widow with public respect, a wedding uniting historic families, and now state oversight arriving at the exact moment of tension. The hall doors opened again as officials stepped inside, shaking off rain and confusion at the charged atmosphere. Stone's sons exchanged uneasy glances. Iron Willow felt Thunderhawk's heartbeat steady beside her. Not frantic, focused. The climax was near, not in violence, but in decision. In exposure, in alliances solidifying under pressure. Stone could escalate and risk public scrutiny. Or he could retreat and regroup. Thunderhawk could push accusations openly, or hold them strategically. Iron Willow understood now that this night would define more than oil contracts. It would define loyalty, love, and leadership. Thunderhawk leaned closer to her, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "No matter what happens next," he said, "this changes everything." She looked down at him, stormlight reflecting in her eyes. "Yes," she answered softly. "It does." Across the hall, Stone Granger straightened his coat as Regulators approached. His expression returned to polished calm, but tension pulsed beneath it. The guests watched, breath held. The storm raged outside. The future of the Southwest, of oil empires and ranch dynasties, of billionaire power and widow strength, balanced on the next words spoken in that hall. And Thunderhawk Blackstone tightened his hold on Iron Willow Reyes, ready to make them count. The Regulators entered with rain still clinging to their coats, their presence cutting through the tension like a clean blade. Cameras followed behind them, local media drawn by the scale of the ranch merger and the involvement of a billionaire Apache oil magnate. What had begun as a private power play was now under bright public light. Stone Granger understood optics better than anyone in the room. He adjusted his cufflinks and forced a polite smile as one of the state officials. Director Valor Hensley approached Crimson Vale to congratulate the families. Valor's sharp eyes, however, moved quickly from face to face, reading the room with professional instinct. "This is quite a gathering," Valor said evenly. "We hope tomorrow's merger signing will reflect cooperation and transparency, Thunderhawk." Blackstone met Stone's gaze across the hall. The message was clear: transparency. Stone inclined his head slightly. Of course, economic growth for the entire Southwest. Oil production, ranch stability, tribal partnerships. Progress requires unity. Iron Willow Reyes did not miss the shift. The tone had softened, not from kindness but from calculation. Stone was adapting. Thunderhawk rolled his wheelchair forward until he stood directly in the circle of light beneath the chandeliers. Even seated, he commanded the room. "Director Valor," he said calmly, "I welcome oversight. My northern oil field and the pipeline corridor bordering, Reyes Ranch will remain under tribal and private ownership as originally registered. No forced consolidation, no hidden restructuring." His voice carried steady strength. The words were deliberate, public, recorded. Stone's sons stiffened again, but Stone himself did not react outwardly. I understood that challenging Thunderhawk now would create headlines he could not control. Ironcrest Boone stepped forward with a folder in hand. "We have documentation reopening the investigation into Thunderhawk's accident," he said clearly. "Mechanical tampering evidence was suppressed. We are formally submitting it to state authorities." A wave of whispers rushed through the hall. Crimson Vale looked stunned, but then nodded slowly, standing behind Thunderhawk. Hawk, River, and Golden Dawn moved beside them. The symbolic alliance of ranch dynasty and Apache wealth was no longer fragile. It was solidifying in real time. Stone Granger finally spoke, his tone measured. "Reopening old wounds benefits no one. It benefits truth," Iron Willow said firmly. Director Valor's expression grew serious. "Any allegation of corporate sabotage will be reviewed thoroughly." Stone's polished calm cracked for the briefest moment. Not fear, recognition. The balance had shifted. Storm outside began to ease, thunder rolling farther into the distance. Rain softened against the roof. Thunderhawk turned slightly toward Iron Willow, then back to the room. This wedding was meant to represent a new era in the Southwest. Billionaire oil enterprise working alongside ranch families and tribal sovereignty, not domination. Not intimidation. His dark eyes found Stone's again. Power built on fear collapses. Power built on partnership endures. The words settled deep. Stone looked around the hall and saw something he had not anticipated. No one stood behind him anymore. Investors avoided his eye. Ranch owners stood closer to Crimson Vale. Apache elders gathered quietly behind Thunderhawk. Even the Regulators' posture suggested scrutiny. Stone had come to measure strength. He had miscalculated unity. After a long moment, he straightened his coat once more. "We will review any formal documents through proper channels," he said coolly. Tonight is, after all, a wedding. It was the closest thing to retreat he would offer. He turned toward the door. His sons hesitated but followed. The three men who had entered earlier moved with them. Outside, engines started again, but this time they drove away into the clearing night. The hall remained silent until the headlights disappeared down the desert road. Then Crimson Veil let out a long breath. Golden Dawn's shoulders dropped in relief. Hawk River wrapped an arm around her gently. Director Valor stepped closer to Thunderhawk. We will examine everything carefully. If wrongdoing occurred, it will surface. Thunderhawk nodded. That's all I ask. As officials and media shifted focus back toward celebration coverage, the mood began to change. Not instantly, but steadily. The storm had passed without violence. The confrontation had moved into lawful channels. The future of the oil corridor and ranch alliance would be decided in courts and contracts, not shadows.
Iron
Willow finally released a breath she had been holding for hours. Thunderhawk looked up at her, and this time there was no guarded distance in his eyes, only something open. You stood beside me, he said quietly. She gave a small smile. I told you I would. The band, uncertain at first, began to play again. A slow melody, blending country strings and Apache drums. This time it felt real. Golden Dawn stepped toward Thunderhawk. Will you bless our union? She asked gently. As elder and partner, Thunderhawk's expression softened. With honor, Iron Willow helped position his wheelchair near the couple. He placed his hands over theirs and spoke words about resilience, shared leadership, and love that strengthens rather than controls. The room listened not out of obligation, but respect. When he finished, applause rose, not loud and forced, but warm and genuine. Later, as guests returned to dancing and laughter gradually filled the hall again, Iron Willow stepped outside for air. The desert smelled clean after rain. Stars pushed through fading clouds. Thunderhawk joined her moments later, Ironcrest Boone giving them quiet space. You could have chosen safer ground, Thunderhawk said, gazing at the horizon. Iron Willow folded her arms against the cool night. I built my ranch by refusing safer ground. He studied her profile in starlight. When this investigation unfolds, it will shake powerful men. Good, she replied simply. He smiled faintly. Silence stretched between them, but it was no longer tense. It was steady. My land touches yours, he said softly. Perhaps our futures should as well. Iron Willow turned to face him fully. Are you offering a business alliance? I am offering something stronger. Her heart tightened unexpectedly. A partnership, he continued, in oil and ranching, in leadership. In life, the desert wind moved gently now, no longer harsh. She stepped closer, resting her hand over his. I will not be rescued. I do not need to rescue you, he said. I need to stand beside you. For a moment, neither spoke. Inside the hall, laughter rose again. Golden Dawn and Hawk River began their first dance as husband and wife. Crimson Veil watched with pride. Apache elders nodded approvingly. The Regulators, satisfied that peace had been restored for the evening, quietly documented the alliance for tomorrow's signing. In the weeks that followed, the reopened investigation uncovered evidence strong enough to halt Stone Granger's aggressive expansion plans. Contracts were reviewed, oversight increased. The oil pipeline corridor remained under Thunderhawk's control, with shared access agreements benefiting Rhea's ranch and surrounding families. Stone Granger's empire did not collapse overnight, but it no longer expanded unchecked. The Southwest entered a new chapter, one built on transparent partnerships between billionaire oil leadership, ranch families, and tribal sovereignty. Months later, beneath the same golden lights, another gathering filled the hall. This time, it was not a merger or confrontation. It was Thunderhawk Blackstone and Iron Willow Reyes standing together before family, tribe, and ranch community, not as strategic allies, but as partners. The billionaire Apache in a wheelchair was no longer alone at the edge of the room. The ranch widow no longer carried her land's burdens alone. Together, they had turned conflict into clarity, power into partnership, and suspicion into trust. And as the desert sun set beyond their shared horizon, the Southwest understood something simple but powerful. True strength is not measured by how much land you control. It is measured by who stands beside you when the storm arrives.